In the valley of rivers and volcanoes, a city rose from untouched soil. Born as other civilizations crumbled, it became a melting pot of cultures, guarded by the silhouette of a goddess said to watch over the land. But the promise was fleeting. Within a century, it was abandoned, leaving only ruins and unanswered questions.
Join me as I uncover the mysteries of El Salvador's lost city, Cihuatán.
Cihuatán is about a 90-minute drive from San Salvador, or roughly half that if you're coming from Suchitoto, which sounds short until you remember you're driving in El Salvador, where time is more of a suggestion than a rule. The main roads are fantastic, smooth, calm, confidence-boosting. And then, right when you start thinking, wow, this is easy, the pavement quietly clocks out, and you're left with the road that says, good luck, archaeologist. Hardly any tourists make this turn, which means the drive is peaceful, scenic, and just adventurous enough to keep you awake. It's simple, it's uneventful, and by the end of this video, I'm hoping you'll agree, it's absolutely worth it. The entrance fee for foreign visitors is $6, which includes $5 for admission and $1 for parking. You know me, my first stop is the museum. This place is small, quiet, and extremely confident that reading is the real attraction here. There are no artifacts. None. Zero. What you do get is information about the artifacts, which is museum speak for use your imagination. And trust me, that imagination is about to travel. Because what this tiny museum is really showing us is a cultural mashup. Think Mesoamerica, the remix. Ceramics found at Cihuatán include big, dramatic effigies of Central American gods. Translation: influences were traveling, ideas were moving, and Cihuatán was plugged into something much bigger than itself. Alongside those were everyday, no-frills ceramics, the kind used for cooking, storing, and surviving. Very typical of southern Mesoamerica during the early post-classic period. There were also small human figurines and even wheeled figurines, which seem to answer the question of whether indigenous people developed the concept of the wheel before European arrival. And then there's obsidian. Blades, tools, cores, projectile points show up too, but they're rare, which suggests hunting or conflict wasn't the main vibe here. So, while this museum won't wow you with glittering displays, it quietly tells a big story. Cihuatán wasn't isolated. It was connected, borrowing ideas from Veracruz, the Gulf Coast, and central Mexico, then blending them with local traditions to create something entirely its own.
Cihuatán means place next to the woman in the Nahuatl language.
It emerged as a significant city in the late 8th or early 9th century CE. Unlike many ancient settlements built atop previous ones, Cihuatán appears to have been established on previously uninhabited land.
This raises more questions than it answers, like, why exactly was this place chosen? What made it special?
Strategically positioned, Cihuatán commands the valley between the Azuate and Lempa rivers, a location offering both fertile land and control over important waterways. To the southeast, the towering Guazapa volcano looms over the landscape, its silhouette resembling a reclining woman. According to local legend, she's a goddess who fell in love with the land and now protects it.
If I dig deep, very, very deep in my imagination, I can see a woman lying down with her arm out, kind of like that. At any rate, she's the woman. That's why this place is called the place next to the woman.
Cihuatán was founded in the Terminal Classic period. This was an era of transition, marked by the decline and abandonment of major cities across the region. Palenque, done. Copan, finished. Tikal, concluded. Calakmul, over. But, while other cities fell into ruin, Cihuatán was just beginning to flourish.
So, why did Cihuatán rise as other Mayan cities were falling? Some scholars suggest shifting trade routes. The Mayans abandoned their cities, but they didn't disappear. The old cities fell with the old trade routes. New trade routes meant new cities.
The section of Cihuatán open to visitors covers just over a square mile. It features 3 ceremonial centers, Western, Eastern, and Northwestern, as well as a residential area and what is believed to be a marketplace. The ceremonial structures exhibit broad Mesoamerican influences, while the residential area and marketplace bear distinctly Mayan characteristics. As with most archaeological sites, much remains buried. What is visible today is only a small portion of Cihuatán's full extent. Some 150 structures have been identified, but more than double that have been mapped.
If those estimates hold true, then Cihuatán is definitely the largest pre-Columbian site in El Salvador, and it might be the largest pre-Columbian site between Guatemala and Peru, which makes it a shame that no one else is here. There was a school group here earlier, but they've gone. Now it's quiet as a mouse. There are no tourists here. This place is pretty far off the tourist beaten path, I guess.
The North Ball Court, formed by 2 opposing structures, lies along the northern edge of the main plaza and pyramid. Much of the complex extends beyond the site's perimeter wall and remains inaccessible today. Its layout follows the classic eye-shaped design, complete with enclosed end zones that once framed mutual play. On the exterior faces, the structures descend into a continuous sequence of steps, emphasizing both momentality and order.
Directly in front of me is the North Ball Court. It's unfortunately prohibited to go any further than I am, but I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see it in the distance. It's in an I shape as opposed to a T shape, which is what I've seen in most Mayan sites so far. Scholars speculate that one reason for having an I shape, meaning like that as opposed to just like that, a T shape, would be the practicality of keeping the ball in the court. Having more walls keeps the ball from wandering and keeps it in play.
The West Ball Court, also composed of 2 opposing structures, is one of 3 ball courts on the site following the I-shaped design typical of the Terminal Classic period, a form deeply tied to ritual, competition, and cosmic meaning.
We can walk through this.
Fragments of a once 6-foot-high wall, built of stone and adobe brick, still encircle portions of the complex, rising to their original height in a few places, while elsewhere reduced by time and by local farmers who once repurposed its materials for everyday use. Though its true purpose remains uncertain, the presence of rain drains along its base reveals a careful attention to water management, hinting at both practical engineering and intentional design.
This is part of Cihuatán's outer wall, lengthy outer wall. Was it built for defense, or was it marking some sacred boundary as part of a ritual? There are always more questions than answers with this place.
Cihuatán opens into a broad ceremonial plaza framed by a handful of surrounding structures, its space dominated by a pyramid that rises nearly 40 feet above the valley floor. Though time has reduced it to a quiet echo of its former grandeur, the pyramid once supported a temple whose presence lingers only in its surviving base. Those who climb to the summit are rewarded with sweeping views across the valley, a vantage point that once linked ritual, landscape, and sky. Would you visit Cihuatán? Let me know in the comments. While you're at it, since you've made it this far in the video, please click the like button. It helps, more than you know. To the northwest of the pyramid is a smaller platform. Archaeologists are uncertain whether it was meant to be an extension of the pyramid's ceremonial center or the foundation of something entirely new. A humble ground-level plaza, now overtaken by trees, once formed a subtle threshold. Though only lightly excavated, this shaded space guides the visitor onward, leading toward the acropolis and the remnants of a palace complex, where power, ritual, and daily governance once converged.
The acropolis is beyond the fence of what we're allowed to visit, but here she is.
The acropolis reveals a network of foundation walls, courtyards, and narrow passageways, hinting at a carefully planned and sophisticated architectural vision. These remains suggest a palace complex that once rose in multiple stories, organized around a broad interior courtyard, a space likely reserved for authority, ceremony, and controlled access within the city.
The presence of a palace indicates royalty. One of the greatest mysteries of Cihuatán is the identity of its ruling elite.
Unlike many Mesoamerican centers, Cihuatán has revealed remarkably few glyphic inscriptions, leaving its systems of leadership, governance, and broader political alliances shrouded in uncertainty. Some scholars propose that Cihuatán's rulers were outsiders, arriving in the wake of the terminal classic collapse of major Mayan cities, perhaps migrating from the Guatemalan highlands, central Mexico, or even as far as present-day Belize.
While the three ceremonial structures represent broad Mesoamerican influences, this residential area is distinctly Mayan.
The residential quarter has borne the heaviest toll of time. Structures built of mud brick and crowned with thatch were never meant to endure centuries. And, unlike Hoya de Siren, no blanket of volcanic ash came to their rescue. What remains suggests a modest cluster of 4 principal buildings, 2 likely serving as homes, the others possibly dedicated to storage of maize and daily sustenance. Artifacts like jars, cooking pots, and decorated ceramics are evidence of storage. Between the rivers and the volcano, this location was a gold mine in fertile soil. When you look at Cihuatán, imagine crops growing everywhere. Given the city's agricultural wealth, storage facilities for surplus crops would have been essential.
Adjacent to the residential area is a terrace that's thought to have functioned like a marketplace.
Though little remains of the marketplace that once occupied the terrace, archaeologists have identified architectural features closely resembling those of the residential buildings, affirming its Maya character. It takes little imagination to picture this place alive with movement, voices bargaining, hands exchanging goods, and daily life unfolding in the open air. Artifacts uncovered at Cihuatán reveal the traces of a bustling and interconnected economy. Archaeologists have identified a sprawling workshop devoted to the mass production of obsidian blades and tools, their glossy shards scattered like frozen lightning. Alongside, evidence of cotton spinning, where threads once flowed from spindle whorls to fuel a thriving textile trade.
My imagination wants to think of Cihuatán as an Atlantis, a beacon of determination and reinvention.
In the Terminal Classic, people must have thought the world was crashing down around them. I think Cihuatán became a refuge, a place where people fleeing turmoil elsewhere sought to create something new, something different than anything anywhere else. People came here with their own knowledge and traditions, but they were open to accepting the knowledge and traditions of others. Cultures meshed. Beliefs blended. This place was a beautiful melting pot. They saw what failed everywhere else and came here to create utopia. This place had the potential to be the greatest Mesoamerican state ever seen. If Cihuatán had thrived uninterrupted, it might have become a powerhouse, an unprecedented fusion of cultures, standing as a new model for civilization in the region.
I don't know any of that to be true. It's just my imagination running wild. Here's what we do know. Cihuatán's existence was fleeting. It lasted for no more than a century. The city met a catastrophic end in a massive fire that swept through its buildings with devastating speed. What caused the fire? We don't know. It literally could have been anything.
Let's say I was inside my house, minding my own business. Suddenly, I discover my house is on fire. I would immediately run outside, thanking my lucky stars I survived.
Whew, ciao. That almost got me. Now let's reframe.
Let's say I was inside my house, minding my own business, and suddenly saw my house was on fire. But then I discovered my neighbor lit my house on fire. Not only that, but my neighbor was waiting for me outside. In that case, I'd go outside, but I'd grab a weapon first.
The archaeological record paints a chilling picture of Cihuatán's fate. Spear points strewn across the charred remains of human skeletons. People here fought for their lives. There are also human remains found in the acropolis drains coinciding with the time of the fire. So people either were killed and then their bodies were thrown down there, or they went down there to hide and got trapped.
This was not an accidental blaze. It was purposeful destruction. The real question isn't what started the fire. It's who started the fire.
Was what happened here the result of external warfare? Maybe people saw the prime location Cihuatán had and wanted it for themselves. It's a possibility, but no one would claim this location again until the Spanish conquest. Perhaps it was a trade war, and whoever did this wanted to be sure that no one would claim this territory again. If that was their goal, they succeeded. It could have also been an internal struggle. Perhaps someone didn't like the meshing of cultures here, and they thought that one culture should be supreme over the rest. Or maybe somebody disagreed with the decisions of the ruling class and tried to replace them. I could pose questions all day. We may never know the answers. But I'll tell you this, going back to the external wall, if that was built for defense, then that lends credence to the theory that it was outside invaders.
Those who survived fled, abandoning their belongings, leaving Cihuatán to smolder into history. Both the fallen and anyone who escaped carried the truth with them to the grave.
Today, Cihuatán stands as a testament to people's resilience during the Mayan collapse, but also as a reminder of the catastrophic and devastating fire that brought this place to a quick end. There are many secrets buried beneath these stones, just waiting to be uncovered.
Stay curious, be inspired, find freedom, wander elsewhere. I'll see you in the next one.